Jay of Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're in the studio. We're not outside Old Trafford. We're in the studio, so get involved in the chat and the comments. Let us know what you think about all the latest news. And if you're not doing, give us a subscribe on the channel as well. Let's get to 700,000 subscribers by the end of the season. With your help, we can do it. So hit that subscribe. Got a lot of stories to get through. We're going to be talking about Jesse Lingard and Donny van der Beek, two players who could be heading out of the Old Trafford exit door. We're looking at a potential incoming, and also having a little look about why United aren't scoring at corners. There's a great piece in The Athletic by Laurie Whitwell who's sort of analysing Eric Ramsey's role at the club and why United just stopped scoring out from corners. Was it 117 corners or something like that this season? No goals, nil points. Not good enough. So we'll have a little look at that. Right, let's get to it. We'll start off with Jesse Lingard. I think we said, didn't we? Yes. Just getting clarification there from producer Callum. Yeah, so Jesse Lingard, it looked at one point like he was going to be heading to Newcastle. This looked like it was pretty much, almost a done deal. But the latest reports indicate that it's dead in the water. Now, Newcastle apparently came to United with an offer to pay Jesse's wages and also pay a loan fee. Jesse spoke to Ralph Rangnick this week. This is, I think Simon Stone was talking about this the other day or this morning, saying that, I think it was yesterday, saying that Jesse Lingard had spoken to Rangnick and Rangnick was, okay for him to go, and that was all sort of done. But then it's all gone a bit south, basically. Newcastle offered a loan fee. United wanted more than the loan fee Newcastle are offering, and Newcastle are now sort of saying no thanks. Simon Stone tweeted an hour ago, said, "I'm wary when a told a deal is dead, when still 6 days of window open, but that is present situation with Jesse Lingard at Newcastle." So that's Simon Stone from the BBC, very reliable journalist, doesn't tend to go for sort of, conjecture and just hearsay. He has his sources, and I put a lot of weight in what he says. So at the moment, it looks like Jesse to Newcastle could be off, but as Simon Stone points out, there's still 6 days left in the transfer window, so it's not dead. It's just one of those where it's not looking too clever at the moment. You can see there, we've got a link to subscribe in the chat. Hit that subscribe button if you're not doing already, and give us a like. Hit the like button, and then hit the subscribe button. Do that in order. Let's get to 100 likes. I've got 33 likes in a minute. Come on, people. Get involved. Heaven Soul says, morning, Jay. Nim says, yes, Jay. Lots of people saying, good morning. Good. Santa Notch says, this chat has been Chris Morris. So, Jesse, listen, I've spoken about this at length. I'll briefly give you my thoughts on Jesse and then we'll move on. Been a good servant to the club. Been at the club since he was a kid. Obviously, had some low moves early on. Had to battle to get into the first team. Got into the first team. Did well. Goal in the League Cup final. Goal in the FA Cup final. Obviously, scored quite a few goals. Made the Emirates his dance floor. Played an important part. Had a real purple patch, didn't he, for about 2 years where he was banging in goals and getting assists. Got into the England squad, into the England team for the World Cup. Went to the World Cup and helped take him to the semi-finals. Then we had a sort of barren spell, didn't we? I think was it a whole year without an assist or a goal. Came back from all that with a low move at West Ham. Absolutely banging in goals and assists. Did really well. And has come back to United and played some part this season. Not a big part, but some. I think he's got a couple of goals and played a few games. I think 9 games in the Premier League, but none of them I don't think have been starts. So it's not like he's a completely forgotten man. And it has been a little bit topsy-turvy, his career, especially the last few years. But he's still a good player. You can understand why Newcastle want him. And I think he's in that sort of grey area. He's a good player who'd do a job at Newcastle just as he did at West Ham. Not probably quite good enough for what United need at the minute, or not what we're going to need. So, for me, I just let him move on. I think he deserves it in terms of the service he's given to the club. We shouldn't stand in his way. If we are going to get his wages paid and get a small fee for him, then that's enough for me, I think. Unfortunately, United don't see it that way. Now, I can understand when Spurs and West Ham were linked with him. United didn't want to give him to a top 4 rival. But not giving him to a club that is battling relegation, if he's happy to go, makes zero sense. I mean, everything about it makes no sense. You're going to get some money for him. You're going to get his wages covered. He's going to go in the summer for free anyway. He's probably not going to play for Manchester United many times this season if we keep him. Also, I know this sounds a little bit sort of inconsequential, but you are strengthening a team that's going to play against our top 4 rivals, going to play against the teams that we're trying to beat for that top 4 space. It's going to help them, help us in a way. I know that's sounding like a minor detail, but it is a small detail, but it's something to consider. So I just feel like everything points to letting Jesse move out on loan to Newcastle. Newcastle are already looking at other players as well. So there's no guarantee they'll come back in with another offer. And then you're going to have a disgruntled Jesse Lingard who's not going to play any football anyway, just taking a wage off the club. It just makes no sense to me. But then again, a lot of what Manchester United doesn't make sense even. Don't make sense. And no, makes sense, does it? Rebecca Jade O'Sullivan says, I think the fact West Ham have tried to come in for him again this window is a kick in the teeth for Jesse. They wouldn't pay to buy him, but they'll loan him. Victoria Lamani says Lingard should have been sold last season. Sadly not to talk about Neves. I'll get to Neves in a minute. Danny McKenna says, hey, Jake, can we please get rid of some of the deadwood? Still not had my... Oh, yeah. Right. Someone asking about green and gold Paddock kits. Nothing to do with me or this channel. Speak to Stretford Paddock FC. It's got nothing to do with me, green and gold stuff. Those kits, just so you know, Darren McKenna. So yeah, get in touch with Steve and the lads over on that channel. I will give them a shout as well and let them know. But yeah, you need to contact them with that stuff. Santa Knott says, I think we loan out players way too much instead of moving them on. That's a good point. We do like a loan move, don't we, at Manchester United? Talking of which, Donny van der Beek, it looks like he could be on his way out. Again, as a loan move, though, to Crystal Palace. Now, this sort of came out last night, that Palace were in for him, and that United were open to the idea of letting him go out on loan. Fabrizio Romano tweeted last night about 25 to 12. He said, update on Donny van der Beek. Crystal Palace have submitted straight loan proposal tonight. It's now a direct negotiation with Man United. There are also other clubs interested. Now, and it goes on to say, Manchester United want full salary paid until June to let him leave. No buy option. So it's purely a loan move. Now, again, forgive me for trying to make things sound simple and easy, but sometimes they are. This makes sense to me. Donny van der Beek barely plays for Manchester United. Now, whether you're a big Donny van der Beek fan or not, the fact is he hardly ever plays. He has cameos. He's not a regular. He's certainly not a regular starter. And he's almost wasting his time at this season anyway at Manchester United. Now, Louis van Gaal, Dutch manager, was talking about players playing regularly. If Donny van der Beek is going to, get into the Dutch squad, he isn't going to get into the Dutch squad while he's at Manchester United warming the bench, if even that. I mean, yeah, all right, he's always on the bench, but sometimes he doesn't even get off the bench. He's literally just warming the bench. So I don't see the point in keeping him at Manchester United if you're not going to play him. Ralph Rangnick obviously doesn't fancy him. There was a theory that maybe Donny van der Beek would fit into Rangnick's system. Same theory that went around with Jesse Lingard. People saying that, he's a Rangnick-type player. The gegenpress and all that. Lingard's full of beans and energy. And, that 4-2-2-2 system will suit the likes of Lingard and Donny van der Beek and Fred. And, okay, Fred plays, but Lingard hasn't really played much under Ralph Rangnick. And Donny van der Beek certainly hasn't. A low move to Crystal Palace makes sense. Crystal Palace, they're not a top four rival. They play good football and have got some good players. It's easy to be dismissive of them. But I've seen them a few times, watched them the other day against Scouts, and they have some really good players, and they play some good football, and you think that Donny van der Beek could fit into that team and do well. And also, it would be a good sort of test to see whether he can play week in, week out at the Premier League. It's not a question of whether Donny van der Beek can play. It's a question is, can he handle the rigours of week in, week out in the Premier League? Because we've never found that out. Because he's never played week in, week out in the Premier League, ever. So let him go to Crystal Palace. Let him play 3 or 4 months or whatever it is, play 15, 16, 17 games or whatever on the spin, and we can see whether he's up to it. And if at the end of that you go, do you know what? No, he's not really, or if during that time he just looks average and maybe gets dropped or doesn't even really show much of himself, you can go, okay, maybe he's not the player we thought we were getting from Ajax. Maybe the Premier League isn't for him. If he goes there and does what Jesse did at West Ham, I'm not saying he can get 9 goals and 6 assists or whatever, but does well, then you can go, okay, there is a player there that can play in the Premier League. Let's get him back at United and let's give him a chance. It makes loads of sense. So I think we need to do that. I think we need to let Donny go and let Jesse go. Now people may think, well, you can't afford to let them both go. Why? Why not? When did Jesse Lingard and Donny van der Beek play for Manchester United? When did he start for Manchester United? How often did he play for Manchester United? And we haven't got any games where you can play your fringe players that often. It's not like we're in the Carabao Cup or early stages. It's not like you've got Champions League dead rubbers. Every Champions League game counts now. You've got 2 games for Atletico if you have any more. But you've got the 2 against Atletico. So you're not playing fringe players for that. You're playing your best team. Okay, you've got the FA Cup against Middlesbrough. Again, that's probably your best chance of silverware. Are you going to take a chance on that game and not play your best players or the players that you rely upon the most? I don't think you are. So I know if you're Donny van der Beek and Jesse Lingard, you must be sat there thinking, I'm not going to get into this team this season. I'm not going to get into this team this season. I'm not going to get into the international squad. If you've got aspirations of going to the World Cup, you're thinking, I ain't going to the World Cup. It just doesn't make any sense. Glenn F says, Jay, bro, honestly, do you really think we'll do anything at all this window? As I don't, unfortunately. Up the effing Paddock. I don't. D. Chakaborty says, like the video. Yeah, hit that like button. Got 129 likes. Let's get to 200 likes. Come on. 200 likes. You can do it. And also, subscribe to the channel if you're not doing. India says, can't believe someone as good as Van der Beek will go Palace. Why not? Palace have got some decent players. It's easy to be dismissive of Palace. All right, they're not challenging for the top four. They're not like, the elite of the Premier League. But they're a good team who play good football. Patrick Vieira's got them playing good football. And they've got some good players. They really have. And I think that Donny van der Beek could do well there. You look at like Conor Gallagher, is it the kid he said? Not the other lad as well. I forget his name. He did well. I watched him the other day against the Scousers, played well. They've got a few players there that can play well anyway. I just think, you know what? If he goes there, it could help prove to him what he's about, give him that experience of playing in the Premier League regularly, and show Manchester United we've got a player there. And if it doesn't work out, then you go, okay. At least we bothered to find out if he was good enough for the Premier League. Because at the minute, we're not even asking that question, are we? Because he ain't playing. I'll move on slightly. That's a good point, though. D. Chakaborty says, can't wait for Hannibal and Garner. Yeah, Hannibal definitely, I think, is going to feature next season. Garner doing really well at Forest. It'll be interesting to see whether Ragnick gives him a chance. I'd like to see him being given one. Right, we're going to talk about corners. You're going to talk about corners. That sounds very boring, doesn't it? But there you can see one of the stats up there behind me. Corners taken, Manchester United. I feel like a weatherman or a weather person. 117. Shots from corners, 37. Goals from corners, 0. And there, just for a bit of a reference to see how others are getting on. Corners taken, 174. This is the Scousers, so you can see they're getting a lot more corners. Shots from corners, 84. Goals from corners, 9. Corners at Manchester United have just been atrocious this season. The stats show that. You might be wondering why I'm mentioning this now. Laurie Whitwell's done a great piece in The Athletic. Talks about corners and set pieces. And you're just looking at United, and there's like a league table of corners and chances created. And you look like City have had, say, for example, 198 corners and 77 shots from corner situations. I mean, that's very impressive. And when you look at United, we're just not doing well. And the main stat that matters is we've got no goals. Now, people looking at Eric Ramsey, because this is what Laurie Whitwell's looked at as well. Eric Ramsey, I think he came in from Chelsea, didn't he? Very young coach, very sought-after coach. He came in and was labelled as the set-piece coach who's going to address the set-piece issue and help us get loads of goals from set-pieces and hopefully defend set-pieces as well. And that's not happening. And you think, well, why is that? And Laurie sort of speaks about this, and he does a bit of a deep dive in it and looks at the role that Eric Ramsey's playing. Now, part of the problem, or it might be part of the problem, you can make your own judgment on it, is the fact that Eric Ramsey's not just solely focusing on set pieces. He's looking at other things as well. He's taking over some of Kieran McKenna's responsibilities. So it's not like this guy's just coming in and focused purely on set pieces. And that wasn't like his forte anyway. He was a good coach. So he is a coach who's now been asked to focus on that, but has also had that focus diluted, shall we say, by having to do other issues such as warming up the defenders and stuff, I think, ahead of the games. Now, I'm not saying that's an excuse or that's a reason why United shouldn't be doing better, but it's just a point that Laurie makes. He says it here. There's a key point to make regarding Ramsey, however. Before joining United, his role was general coaching rather than being set-piece specific. So ideas he might arrive with a Super Bowl-style playbook were wide of the mark. So he goes on to say, Ramsey was seen as a promising young coach at Chelsea's under-23s. Came from recommendation from Kieran McKenna, they've been students together at Loughborough, whose fluency in Spanish will prove useful at Carrington. So he might have come in and been asked to do this role, but he wasn't like, oh, this guy's an expert in set pieces, let's get him in. It's this guy's a good coach, let's get him in and get him to look at set pieces for us. And it's just not working out, is it? And I'm not saying get rid of him or anything like that. I'm just saying they need to either adjust his role or get someone else in to do that set-piece role or work with him. I don't know what the answer is. You can all decide yourselves. But the fact is we're just not scoring from corners. Fefe says, we don't even score from goals because the players Tactically, don't know what to do. We can't get easy goals. We make things as difficult as possible. Fair enough. Hit that like button. Give us a like. Mintbury Crunch says, where's the Neves news, Jay? Moston loves you. And I love Moston, North Manchester's finest. Rebecca Jane O'Sutherland says, Jay, no way did you just pronounce Loughborough as Loughborough. Sorry, I'm so common. Forgive me. Hit that subscribe button. There should be a link in the chat pinned. Let's get to 7. I want to get to 700,000 subscribers by the end of this season. We can do it, man. We can do it. Hit that like button. 220 likes. Over 1,000 people watching. Come on. John Gary Navida says, so the club basically hired a set-piece coach who does not specialise in set pieces. No less. That's what it looks like. We hired a coach who's just a coach and said, look at set pieces for us. Now, that's not beyond the realms of possibility because coaches will look at set pieces anyway. Oh, that's not that stupid a move. It's just, I think there's been a little bit, there's a culmination of things there that have gone wrong in terms of Eric Ramsey and what's happened there. For starters, he wasn't a specialist set-piece person, so that's not his forte, but he's been asked to do that. That's not very helpful. Secondly, the expectation of him from fans, including myself, was probably a bit too high. Like, we've got a set-piece coach coming in now. We're going to score loads of goals with set-pieces. Obviously, you've had a change. You've had a change of manager, a change of coaches that doesn't help anyone, or, in terms of stability, in terms of their role. D's been asked to do different roles. And also, I don't want to say he's been unlucky because that's not true. You've got to make your own luck. But even if we had one goal to speak of, that might help. Even if, their header, I think, was it Pogba? I can't remember, was against, who had a header that, I think it's against Villa, was it? It just went wide. Even if you had one, then you could go, okay. But the fact we've got none is the main issue here. It's like, it is a bit cringe. So, yeah, it's just not happening for him. Right, should we move on to this Neves story? So, yeah, I mean, Ruben Neves to Manchester United has been going on for about, how long would you say? I'd say about 18 months. I think we've had this story, this rumour going around. What do you reckon? I mean, is it even longer? Possibly. We have been linked with him for quite a while. It almost feels since he was at Wolves, to be honest with you. I don't think it's that long ago. I think about 18 months. And I think in the summer, it began to get a lot of traction. People looking at it going, actually, Neves to United makes loads of sense. Wolves, they do sell players, don't they? Like, they do, don't. They sold, obviously, Jota, for example, is a prime example. Doing really well, end up going to Liverpool. I think Adama Traore's been linked. Is he gone yet? Is linked with a move to Spurs. So, I mean, you can get players off Wolves. I know they've got money and they've got this sort of the connection with Jorge Mendes, I think, the Portuguese agent or super agent. Hence the reason they've got so many good Portuguese players. Neves looks like someone who could be, available and who other clubs may look at because he is talented, he has got experience, and he's got that great mixture of Premier League experience while still being relatively young. I think he's only in his sort of mid-20s, early mid-20s, so he's not like he's the sort of late 30s or late 30s, late 20s where, he's probably got 3 or 4 years left in him. Yeah, he's 24 and has played quite a lot of football in the Premier League already. This is his, he's in his 4th season in the Premier League. So, and he played in the Championship for him as well. So, got lots of experience in England, got lots of experience in the Premier League. We know what he can do just from when we've played him. He's played well against us. And I think it's the Express have got this story doing the rounds that there's a potential United could move for him if other things line up, because we've already got rid of Anthony Martial. He's gone on loan to Sevilla. That was confirmed last night. You've probably seen the pictures doing the rounds. That's a done deal. Maybe one of Van der Beek or Lingard, if not both of them, goes as well, which frees up money off the wage bill. Potentially with Lingard, you could get some money in for him as well. Does that then enable Ralph Rangnick to bring in another midfielder? And if he does, would Ruben Neves be the obvious one? We have been linked with a few other midfielders. I think it's the kid from RB Leipzig. Is it Hedara's another one doing the rounds? But Neves does make a lot of sense. I'm a bit on the fence. I hate being on the fence with anything. I do. I'm a bit like with Neves. I said this a few times. If we got him, I think I'd be like, I wouldn't be disappointed. But like, okay, good midfielder, come in. But he wouldn't be my first choice. I think that's the best way of putting it. The unknown one says, who's a member of the academy for 4 months, says, the club wait for players to want game time before they realise they have to make decisions. They want credit for reacting to mistakes they let happen. Yeah, I mean, we are very reactionary, aren't we, as a club? It doesn't feel like we have these plans in place. It does feel like we're a bit on the huff, so to speak. So yeah, I don't know. It gets a little bit frustrating. As Ansab Naveed says, Jay Neves is a good player, but does he get in City's, Chelsea's, or Liverpool's midfield? No. Then why are we bothered? That's a good question, though. Is that the question you have to ask yourself? Is that the benchmark? Does he get into one of those teams? Iqbal Javed says, who would be your first choice then, Jay? If we could sign any midfielder in the world, mine would be Bellingham. I know he's a different type of player, and we'd still probably need a DM, but mine would be Bellingham. If we are going to go out for a DM-type Premier League experienced player, Rice would be the obvious one. Maybe as well, there was talk one of the kid Basuma. I know he's got some things hanging over his head, I think, but Basuma's not a bad shout. Neves, it wouldn't be my preference. But again, if we bought him, I won't be complaining because he's a midfielder and we need him. I just think we need the next midfielder we sign. We have to get that one right. And I think Neves comes in, he probably does start every game. He does improve the 11. Is he quite level? Maybe. At 24, he's not done. And players, people forget about this. At 24, he does. Players can still kick on, midfielders especially. You know, your mid to late 20s. I remember Darren Fletcher kicking on massively in his mid 20s. It can happen. So don't think that the Ruben Neves you've got now is the one you're going to have for the next 5 years. He can improve. I just think, for me, not quite. The special one says Kimmich. Nim says Bissouma and Bellingham aren't what we need. He disagrees. Someone else saying De Jong. De Jong will not sign after Donny, says Big Hand 69. Tan Franklin says Neves and Rice in the summer. Not bad if we can get the two of them in. Zelton says Neves is better than Fred and McTominay. Julien Lone says Frankie de Jong is available. He wants to leave. Danala Aria says Frank Kessie. Hit that like button, please. Give us a like. There's almost 1,400 people watching. Well, there is 1,400 people watching. Only got 274 likes. Let's get to 300 likes. The special one says Rice. Simple. Rice. Declan Rice did well the other day. I thought he had a good performance against Manchester United. I saw some people saying it was a fantastic performance, amazing. I thought it was a decent, good performance. I thought it was like a 7 out of 10 solid performance. You might disagree, I think it was better than that. But he certainly didn't do himself any harm in terms of putting himself in a shop window for Manchester United. Also said some good things about United and playing at Old Trafford and one of his favourite stadiums. So who knows, maybe Declan Rice could be the next United midfielder to arrive. I know the club are interested in him. From what we hear from various reports, is him and Bellingham are the two main contenders. Personally, if push came to shove over the two, I think Bellingham could be just one of the great midfielders. But I'd be very happy if we got Rice. I think he's a very, very talented footballer. Rob the Red says, Jay, I'd rather wait for Jude Bellingham. Mikel Becker says, like the video. On that, I'm going to leave it there. If you're not doing, subscribe to the channel. There's a link in the description, in the chat, sorry. Make sure you are subscribing. Let's get to 700,000 subscribers by the end of the season. With your support, we can do it. We've got some videos coming up. We're going to have Joe Smith, I think, and Steve going to be on a video later on looking at potential transfers. We're also going to have... what else have we got coming on? What day is it? Oh, yeah, got the Tier 1 Transfer Podcast tomorrow. We're going to be speaking to someone who's an RB Leipzig expert and a Ralph Rangnick journalist as well. Ralph Rangnick journalist, the journalist who's covered Ralph Rangnick quite a lot. Over in Germany, he's going to be talking to us, giving us a lowdown on Rangnick and Hadara, who mentioned as well. The link's there. Let us know whether he's any good and whether we think that's what's going to happen. So make sure you're checking that out. This has been the Paper Talk live from the studio. I'm Jay Motti. Thanks for watching.